Today, we are going to go through how to build Proto A from start to finish for all skill levels. Before we begin, do click the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. We start by opening the box and taking out all the parts from inside it. And you can put the box aside for now. First things first, we will start with the sensor holders because it is the easiest to deal with. The things you will need are the sensor holders, the sensors, and the wires. Let's just remove all the other items first. Okay, so in the sensor holder bag, there's an ultrasonic sensor holder and an IR sensor holder. You can identify the IR sensor holder by the text in the back, as well as the ultrasonic sensor. In the wires bag, you will find these 4-pin M2F wires, there will be 2 of them, as well as a 3-pin M2F version. And finally, 2 M2M wires, one in black and one in red. What we will need for the sensors are one of the 4-pin wires and the 3-pin wires. Next, we will open and take out the sensors from the sensor bag. There is one IR sensor and one ultrasonic sensor. We'll start with the ultrasonic sensor. Grab the holder, face the back towards yourself. Next, grab the ultrasonic sensor and align the pins upwards. And simply slot it into the holder, pushing it all the way. Next, attach the 4-pin wires to the pins on the ultrasonic sensor. The color and order doesn't matter. After that, we'll move on to the IR sensor. Get your holder. You'll notice that there are 2 pairs of holes. You can choose either, but for today I'll be using the right side. So, to insert it, start by inserting the 2 bulbs, and then simply press the circuit board slightly into the 2 flaps, and the sensor is in. For wiring, we'll repeat what we did, but now with the 3-pin wires, and that should be it. For the sensor holders, you can put them aside for now. Now we'll move on to assembling the motor driver plate. You'll need the screws and tools bag, and the motor driver. Let's open both of these, the motor driver, and from the other bag, we'll need the plate, the Allen key, the N3x6 screws or the small screws, and the 30mm spacer or the long wide spacers. We don't need the rest for now. For this, we need 8 small screws altogether. What we're going to do is to fasten the motor driver to the plate with the screws. Start with one screw, but don't tighten it all the way down because we need to allow space for the solder ends, just like in this photo. Once the first one is in, continue screwing in the rest and you should get this. After this, we will attach this long spacer to the plate. Using screws, we fasten the spacers to the plates, just like this. And do the same for the rest. And now, we are done with assembly, so we can move on to wiring. We will need our cute little screwdriver, one 4-pin M2F wire, and the black and red M2M wires. We will start with the 4-pin wire and attach it to the pins right here. Just like this. Also, I recommend making sure that the curve of the wire faces this way. And after that, we want to attach the red wire to the left point of this block and the black wire to the middle. You will realize when you insert the wire, it doesn't stay in there. And that's because you need to clamp the pin by screwing it down. Just like this. and the wire should stay. And you can put the motor driver aside for now. Now we will move on to assembling the chassis, also called the main body of Proto A. We will need the Allen key, the chassis, the motors, M3x20 screws or long screws, the small screws, and 12mm spacers. If you unwrap the chassis, you will find the battery holder inside. You can slide the holder from the adapter plate like so. But for now, we can put it aside. We're going to start attaching things to the chassis. Make sure to note the different sides of the chassis and how they are different lengths. First, we are going to mount the spacers for the Arduino board. To locate the holes, you can use the Arduino Uno board just like so. And now you know which holes to fasten the spacers to. We've done this a few times already, so just use the small screws to fasten the spacer to the hole like so. And do so for all 4 holes. The next thing we're going to fasten is the motors. The most important thing to take note of is the side of the motor with this dot. Ensure that you mount the dot facing towards the outside of the chassis. Then we will fasten it with the long screws like so. And when we are done with one side, we'll move on to the next side. Okay, so when you're done with one motor, move on and fasten the next motor. We're going to cut to when I finish mounting the other motor. Okay, so when you are done, you want to ensure that the motors aren't wiggling. No, make sure they are not loose. And yeah. Now we will attach the battery holder. This is the adapter plate. This is the battery holder. You can slide it in like this. Ensure that this side is facing up. Ensure that the battery holder is removed before you do this. Look at the back of the chassis. We're going to attach the adapter plate bottom first. So, line it up with the adapter plate like this. And push it in until you hear a click. From here, you can attach the battery holder, but instead, I'm going to carry on without it first. Now, we are going to attach the caster wheel into the slot at the bottom of the adapter plate. Simply grab your caster wheel, align it, and insert it as such. For the next part, it will be easier if you ensure that the motor wires are sticking out. now, let's bring in the motor driver plate because we are going to merge it with the chassis. Let's get our little screwdriver here. We are going to zoom in here so that it's easier to see. And we are going to start attaching the wires like this. To make it easier in the future, simply follow the color coordination here. Now, we are going to start closing this robot arm. So start by flipping the motor plate over. At the same time, stick these wires into the slot in the chassis. It will be easier to pull the wires than to push it. So, flip the chassis over and get the wires and gently pull on it so that the motor driver will be pulled towards the chassis. You are going to need to do some massaging to get the plate on there. You will know it's in when you can start hearing the spacers sliding under the chassis. Now we are going to use 4 small screws to fasten the motor plate, like so. And it should look like this. Now we are going to start attaching the Arduino Uno board. Get the remaining small screws. We only need 4, so we're going to put the spare aside. Before attaching the board, you need to massage the wires so that it will come out from behind the board when we attach it. Now, we are going to secure the board to the spacers like this. Do the same for all 4. And now, onto wiring. Align the 4-pin wire so that all the pins are in a straight row. Insert it into pins number 2 to 5. And it should look like this. As for the other 2 wires, attach the black cable to ground or GND. And attach the red cable to 5 volt. Just like this. So now we are finishing this up. We can bring in the wheels and battery holder. We can slot in the battery holder like so. And we can attach the wheel via this hole. Simply push it in. Do the same for both sides. Make sure to line it up and it should go in. We can bring in the sensors now. I'll cover how to attach the wires for the sensors in another video. but to condense it, we attach the sensor on the front fold of the chassis. If you look at the sensor holder, there is a slot, and you can do this. You can even swap it out for another one, just like this. And congratulations, you have built your very own Proto A. Thank you very much for sticking around. Do click the subscribe button, it really helps me out. We are very close to the 100 subscriber mark. And check out other videos, I have some 3D print stuff and some Proto A stuff. A little something for everyone. Bye!